Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the ASTROLABE, brought to you by King Pilled. It's good to be here, guys. Happy Monday to you. Quite a great weekend. I see Samoa Bob here in the chat. He and I had ourselves a fantastic weekend. The LA Galaxy are on the race to SACE. 6 championships. They're the favorites. They're dominating everyone. Steamrolling people in the playoffs. They've scored 15 goals in 3 games. A record. Absolutely wonderful weekend. How far we've come in a year, basically. It's remarkable. It's remarkable what can be accomplished when you simply install competent people whose responsibility is to pursue a particular mandate, and they don't really care about interoffice politics and shameless grifting and just all they're there for is just to win games. It's interesting. It may be sports ball, but perhaps it presages something. There's a demand. You guys probably don't know the story because, soccer is still relatively marginal in terms of its popularity among the absolute American population, and then especially MLS soccer. But it's a very interesting story because the team was once gloried. 5 championships, most in the league. One of the original teams. They've become synonymous with excellence in the league. And yet, for the last 10 years, they've just been cratering. It's been an embarrassment. And it got to the point where you think they couldn't get any worse. It couldn't be any more obvious how corruptly this organization is being run. And yet somehow the people most responsible for all the corruption just keep getting reinstalled in their roles. Despite the absolute cratering performance, the massive amounts of money wasted. It's like the LA Galaxy is a microcosm of the United States. And then the fans have had enough. The fans begin boycotting the team. Boycotting the home games. And this isn't just like if you maybe you're a football guy or a baseball guy or basketball guy or something like that. And so you have a taste for sports ball, but you're not a soccer guy. Soccer fandom is unique. The home field advantage in a soccer game is for every team, it's comparable to what the Seahawks have notoriously had because of the noise. The noise level, documented noise level in the, what is it now, Lumen Field. So to not have your home fans there chanting and cheering the entire game when you play at home, that's a big deal. That directly affects the performance of the players because it's such a huge psychological boost. So the fans just were fed up. So they just started boycotting. The supporters groups wouldn't show up for games. Or if they did, they just were silent the whole time. And everything just cratered immediately. The fan boycott was successful. The incompetents were thrown out on their ass, and competent people were brought in, installed, and it's paid immediate dividends. It's absolutely remarkable to watch. This is one of the great things about sports ball. This is why I am a unabashed sports ball enjoyer. I will always go to the mat for my sports ball people because it's like a training ground for the rest of life. A lot of the patterns the macro social patterns, the economic patterns, the innovation patterns, all these different patterns are much easier and much more presently seen. It's like the cycles iterate faster so you can see them better in sports ball. So becoming an adept sports ball enjoyer is becoming an adept how reality works enjoyer. Of course, then you couple that with the affection for your team, your people, your guys. You wear their colors and loud and proud, and it doesn't matter what other people think. You're like, fuck you. This is my people. I stand for my people. Get bent. You can have your people. I'm not going to say you can't have your people, but you go represent your people, and I'm going to represent my people. And when we come into conflict, it's a fight to the death. We get to practice. We get to flex these muscles without like actually, I mean, sometimes you do actually get death, but you know what I mean? Like it's an outlet for the warrior spirit. Now, obviously that outlet can turn into a siphon, but that just means that it needs to be an outlet, not a siphon. And you're retarded if you're like, oh, it's a siphon, it has to go away altogether. Bread and circuses, whatever. This is retarded shit libbery. I challenge you. If you're not a sports ball person, just arbitrarily choose to become one. Just pick a sport, pick a team. You know, ideally, if it's someone close to you, if something you have a personal connection to, then that's probably better. Your dad's team or, you know, your wife's team. That's how it happened with me with soccer. I was sort of passively interested in soccer, but my wife was a big soccer fan. All of her friends are soccer fans. So I was like, all right, you know what? All these other sports are hurting my soul right now. So let's give this soccer thing a try, which it's been 8 years of just hurting my soul, but it's good for the soul. It's good for the soul to be damaged. Just pick a team. Just pick a team and just start following them. Observe like the different categories of fans present, how they root for them, the philosophy of the team. You know, are they like a defense first team? Are they a bottom dweller that's always kind of trying to ascend into mediocrity? Are they in the land of perpetual mediocrity and they just need the quarterback, but like, how are they going to get the quarterback? How do they, you know, they're going to, maybe an NFL analogy would be they're never bad enough to get access to the best quarterbacks, but they're never good enough to actually be able to contend. And so they're in this permanent purgatory. How do you break that cycle? It's going to take some kind of innovative executive to come in and install a good team of coaches or managers to get the right product on the field. And then there's all the different patterns in the field that all have to, these are all proxies for battle. If you're not tuned in on this level, you're missing out big time. Anyways, I didn't at all expect to do a rant about sports ball here at the beginning, but I should move right along here because I got to get through some of this content and get out of here by 5:30 my time. I've got an hour and 15 minutes. First of all, I have to remind you guys, if you haven't gotten your Patriot drop, we're in possession of a top secret transmission from a mysterious personality. This is not just any transmission. It is the transmission. It will make you question the very composition of reality itself. You must act quickly. Watch this video and then go to the website. Now, I'll tell you that rumor has it there is, we are in access to this top secret transmission coming through. We've got to get everything decoded and I don't know what's the proper word for reformatting the data to optimize it for your consumption. It'll be a special message airing 24/7, reminding you, no fucking blackpilling you, entertaining you, inspiring you. We've got to do the legwork to get it to you guys. That's in process. Rumor has it more information will be dropping soon. But for now, we happened by an absolute miracle of reality. We happened to be there with very high quality cameras, able to capture the moment that we first accessed this remarkable transmission.
The valley of the shadow of cringe. Even when it is so open, you're not sure when you're going to be so bad. I will not blackpill. Because remember, blackpilling will get you 10,000 years in the crystal. All right, I've got a very special mix coming up to usher in 4 more years of white boy summer. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. You're listening to EWBSX, the Cyberbully.
So we have a special Patriot drop for all Patriots. If you would like to receive your copy, go to ewbsx.com. You'll have there's another brief transmission for you to hear, going into a little more detail about what to expect, and then you'll have the opportunity to get your very own Patriot drop. It's free. It's free. All you got to do is give us a place to send it. So go to ewbsx.com. We are very proud to be in access, have access to, be in possession of this transmission, and we're proud that our we're glad that this mysterious personality is willing to sponsor the ASTROLABE just to get the message out. All right, let's get this jam in here. Let's see. Every once in a while, I got an Instagram video for you guys, and this one here, we're gonna continue with the slop, but hold on. This is very wholesome slop. This is why slop exists. Go away. I don't want that. Doxing people on Instagram. I don't know who any of these people are. Okay, so first of all, real quick, set up for this. It's one of the coolest videos I've ever seen. This is humans being humans, man. So this is it's like a, what would you call it? Not a festival. It's like these people are part of this club, this troupe that dances. They're practicing and honing their dancing. And they have this particular format that they use where it's improv. So I think they know the song. Sometimes they do. There's different variants of it, but from going down some deep like doom scrolling rabbit holes on some of this stuff, they're coming up with this in real time. They're drawing from experience, like they know the song, they know the lyrics, but there's this magical moment where the two of them, they're improvising it together. So they have to get on the same wavelength and then be able to communicate basically non-verbally, to get in sync with one another and in sync with the music. This is like very few things are going to get you grounded into reality like this exercise. No, it is not choreographed. So the other thing I should have added is that this isn't like a pair that dances together. These are two random people who are brought up here for this exercise. I think, if I remember right from reading a story about this or something, I think they danced together in the past. So they were, like, they're familiar with each other, but they've never done this dance before. They've never practiced it, never choreographed it or anything. So they have to get themselves on the same page with each other. And you can see at the beginning them kind of feeling each other out, and then if you're watching, you can notice them give each other cues about what's a thing we're going to return to. What's a little theme, a little motif that we're going to come back to. This sort of thing is fascinating to me. All right, a man has ruined his weekend with his girl by saying what he's thinking. I'm curious, the women in the chat, what do you, I know there's a couple of guys, what do you think of that, how does that whole thing make you feel? We'll play this. A man has ruined his weekend with his girl by saying what he's thinking.
A man has ruined a weekend away with his girlfriend by saying what he was thinking. Our reporter Emma Bradford is at the scene.
Martin Bishop and Eleanor Shaw had stopped at a cosy country pub after a romantic walk when Miss Shaw looked up meaningfully at Bishop and asked what he was thinking at that very moment. The weekend was about to go very wrong indeed.
I was hoping he would say, maybe this would be a great place to bring the kids one day. Or even something corny but sweet, like, I have everything I'll ever need right here.
And what did you say, Martin?
I said, pigs are much bigger than you expect. Just one sentence. One of them was so big you could ride it.
More from us later.
That's exactly what I'd be thinking about too, man. Look at the size of these frickin' pigs. Incredible things are happening in America. I lost count of the number of people who sent me this clip. What was this? Saturday? When Jack Posobiec sent this, posted this, I had like 20 different people from some combination of DM it to me, tag me on the King Pill Discord, tag me on it in Twitter. You guys liked this clip. He says incredible things are happening in America. This is basically like, this is like a proxy Trump rally. Can you imagine someone who went into the voting booth on November 5th and voted for Joe Biden or voted for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and then showed up here for a Creed concert and is sitting there singing along with it? Like, this is, I can see why you guys why you guys all sent this to me. We've talked about the vibe shift. This is the vibe shift. Because everyone there also knows that. This is like really, it's something that people can just feel. Like they know that they're there, surrounded by a bunch of Trump supporters, enjoying being Trump supporters. We're taking back Creed. All you like stuck up, snobby, urbane theater kids want to look down your nose at us for liking Creed? Suck it. Samoa Bob, I didn't know the vibe shift would include butt rock coming back. Man, it's going to be the 80s and 90s. It's crazy how many different patterns, like cyclical patterns, are all indicating that we're basically, right now, we're basically at like 1990 across so many different domains. I was watching a video. I got to see if I can figure out a way to do something around it apart from just playing it, because YouTube won't like that. But this guy was doing this like stock market analysis, thinking about generational demographics and when they're hitting certain ages and at what point what those ages correspond to in terms of like net productivity to the economy, and overlaying this like multivariate analysis, projecting out what like this bull run that's happening right now. He projected it to 2035 because of there's a reflection between the millennials and the boomers, and the way that the economy reacted when the boomers were at a certain age, and how it's mirrored in the way it reacted in very similar ways when millennials were at that age. And so based on that, he's tracking out. He says, like, we're going to be on an upward tear until 2035. And it was crazy because he did a separate analysis that had nothing to do whatsoever with generations. And it pointed to almost the exact same year. It was like 2034. So it's fascinating how it's like the 90s are just being reborn to us. For some reason, it's beyond the control of any individual one of us. We're all participating in it, but it's something that's happening at a level of abstraction above us. Someone said here, Manoan said, why is Creed a Trump band? Because it's chud music. I think it's that simple, really. It's chud music. It's Kyle music. You know, when you listen to Creed, it's like you imagine yourself wearing those sunglasses and driving a truck and drinking a Monster. It's music that's culturally affiliated with the chuds. So, you know, the snooty urbane liberals are like, ew, gross, yucky chud music. And it's also like when this music was popular, it was when there was this kind of fringy thing where it was like, is this a Christian band or not a Christian band? And Creed was one of those that a lot of people assumed was a Christian band because it sounded like a lot of Christian rock music. So these were all people that in the 90s and the 2000s, and it was not cool to be one of those people. And yet, for whatever reason, there was lots and lots of people who liked it. Creed is popular because Creed is popular. At a certain level, you can't argue with it. You can just observe it. So it was like you got looked down on and made fun of if you like Creed, or Nickelback was like, oh, this person has no music taste. And they're like, I don't know, I just like it. I like the way I feel when I listen to it. I don't need to break it down or compare it to anything. I just like it. But you were like, ugh, this is not sociable. It's not fashionable to like Creed. Well, now that all of those people, all of the like snooty, stuck up, urbane hipsters, they're all getting their face rubbed in the mud right now. So publicly exulting in Creed, knowing that it just absolutely grinds those people's gears, is like a self-expression all its own. All right, man, you guys are jamming in the comment section. Let me see what you guys are saying. Jason says, I would have said something sweet and romantic, but I would be thinking about the size of the pigs because I can hold two separate thoughts in my head at the same time, and I've been married for a decade. Yeah, that's something that comes with experience. You have to learn that one the hard way. Okay. CRX, does that mean the Rodney King race riots are coming? Well, probably something akin to that. If history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme, then we could probably, like, that's part of the projection here, is you can, once you start recognizing that we're reliving the 90s in a lot of ways. Even my dad who's like, he sort of trails behind right-wing Twitter by like, I don't know, 18 months or 2 years or something like that. So he's pretty plugged in. He's a early Gen Xer. He was born in 68. He's always been very up on tech news. So he's very current with a lot of things, but he's sort of isolated from what's happening on right-wing Twitter. He's just started sending me tweets lately that are from like, whoa, okay, you're like 1 or 2 degrees removed from me. But he said, unprompted, this last week when I was talking with him, he said it's weird. It just seems like the 90s are coming back. I think we were out walking and Foo Fighters was playing, and he said that in his I think one of the places he was, he'd gone to a place for a work dinner the night before, and they were just playing grunge music, and he grew up in that era, and so he grew up in the 90s. He lived in the Seattle area. So we got inundated with grunge up there. And he was like, it's like the 90s are just resurfacing for whatever reason. And he said, I think the reason why is because that's the last time people can remember positivity and optimism and not having like the specter of the world hanging on you at all times. And people are just fed up and tired of doom and pessimism. They just want anything that's going to be hopeful or optimistic or even just colored that way. All right. Shout out to Lee. Florida sheriffs are making public humiliation videos of juvenile scholars being arrested, and you're blackpilling? Florida Sheriff Keith Pearson just posted this.
Hey, what's your name? Yeah, I'm St. Lucie County Sheriff Keith Pearson. Franklin Sanders and his juvenile companion thought they were going to come through St. Lucie County with the stolen vehicle with the Broward Task Force on their tail. Ain't happening. Although this is an M5 and it's super fast, we got the Scat Pack out. Hey, what'd you think? Good? Yeah, no comment. But anyways, let me show you what we have going with the Scat. The Scat Pack took them down. We want to say shout out to the Broward County Sheriff's Office, Osceola County Sheriff's Office, Indian River County Sheriff's Office for making sure we put this bad guy behind bars where he belongs.
You know, this is there's particular significance to this because, as a lot of people have pointed out, we are moving in the direction of a Florida-occupied government. A flog, you might say. They're going to flog the nation. I'm okay with that. I think I'm okay with the Gator people flogging the nation. It could use a good flogging from the Florida man. Jim Bob Boatwright says Creed is a mid-'80s square-body Chevy, Milwaukee's best, and a bonfire made from pallets. Hell yeah. And Ryan Isaac says Creed reminds me of driving up with the boys in teen years to snowboard and jamming to it. This is right. It's so nostalgic. And for whatever reason, it's really nostalgic to a particular group of people, and it reminds them of these particular vibes and doing these particular things. And for whatever reason, we've been detached from that, or it feels like we've lost that, or it isn't there anymore, and we want to relive that. We want to feel that. That feeling, which is deeper than like your senses. It's a spiritual feeling. It's like a yearning that is just breaking through spontaneously. And it's not just happening to the Creed enthusiasts who are wanting to relive their experience of the 90s and maybe into the early 2000s. It's also happening to the other people who themselves have fond memories of whatever they were doing at that time. So all these different things are going to come back, and they're obviously not going to be exactly the same, but they're going to be propagated by people who are in that headspace, who are like operating according to those incentives. Nick Coast and Border says, been listening to Bryan Adams all year. Saw he was playing at the Spokane Arena back in January and told the wife, I haven't seen a proper arena rock show in ages. We got to go. Yes. And I think part of this as well is that the millennial generation is like large swaths of the millennial generation are moving beyond, are like really coming into adulthood now. Like 30s and 40s is where you're kind of, you've started exiting the world of being a kid and all the things that are incumbent upon that, and you're moving into a new world. Well, part of moving into that new world is being able to sort of step back from the grind a little bit and observe everything that happened between, 14 and 30, the way your life progressed through that, and kind of sort of stepping back and trying to go see which things you veered away from and which of those you want to bring back again. So you can go and kind of relive your childhood by going to a Bryan Adams concert or a Creed concert. By childhood, I don't just mean like, single digits, but before you were really an adult beginning to do adult things. Ryan Isaac, King Dad asking the J question out loud and gets at Peninsula, Washington. Yeah. We got a little ways to go for that one. Florida man ethos is here, baby. Yeah. All right. Let's keep this going. So a dark story. Remember, I played that or showed you guys it was a video and then a tweet thread on the Amish building these, like, rapidly standing up these tiny homes in Western North Carolina. Well, it says, breaking, the Amish came to Western North Carolina and built 100-plus tiny homes to shelter Helene victims from the cold mountain weather. Local and state authorities kicked the victims out of their houses, saying they didn't pass code. Now, I looked a little bit and I couldn't find like video or like real clear evidence that has happened for sure. But this statement from Mitchell County, North Carolina government indicates, like, when you understand how this stuff works, you can read into these statements. So it says, notice to local volunteers for temporary housing. If you're a local volunteer working to bring in temporary housing to support our community, we want to first thank you for your efforts and commitment. Please remember that any temporary housing installations must comply with North Carolina's building and health codes to ensure safety and well-being for all. Before moving forward, please consult with local officials and relevant departments to verify that all installations are up to code. Our inspection department's phone number is blah, blah, blah. Be a shame if people bombarded that phone number with and let them know how you feel about it. Please see below for a statement from Division Chief of Codes and Interpretations, David Rittinger. Temporary shelters and dwellings that fail to meet the minimum requirements of the 2018 North Carolina State Building Code are inherently unsafe for occupancy. There's a little sleight of hand being done here. If they fail to meet those minimum requirements, they are inherently unsafe for occupancy. That is not the case. That may be the case, but you can't say that's the case. It's entirely plausible that they are safe. It's begging the question here. We've determined these things are unsafe, so they are unsafe. Well, how did you determine whether or not they're unsafe? We just did. Temporary shelters and dwellings that fail to meet minimum code requirements are particularly vulnerable, especially if they lack proper structural anchoring, which can lead to instability, especially in adverse weather conditions. So you should live in a tent instead. I don't want a Fed post. So there's their whole post. And Ryan Dawson says, the idiot that kicked people out of houses the Amish built for hurricane victims. Harley Masters, let her know how you feel. Say a rainbow frog sent you. Harley.masters at mitchellcountync.gov. In a related story, North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis may lose his GOP primary in 2026. According to campaign viability research from November 13 to 15, and of 800 likely voters, 36.3%, it was someone else. So the largest segment of the polled population said someone else. Undecided was 32.7%. Tillis was 31%. So he's got work to do. Wouldn't it be a shame if the institution behind what was one of the most successful campaigns of all time that just concluded redirected its focus to ensuring that this number here, the 36.3%, gets a lot bigger? I'd say that Mr. Tillis has a very strong incentive to cooperate with whatever the Trump agenda is. Because if he doesn't, he's going to get replaced. Voters under 30 are at 65% approval of the Trump transition. Let me say that again. Voters under 30 are at 65% approval of the Trump transition. Christian Haynes said, we're in the midst of a generational realignment. The vibe shift is real. Now, just for some context, 65% voters under 30. Where have I heard that number before? In early 2009, after his inauguration, Obama's approval rating among 18 to 29-year-olds was around 66%, according to a Gallup poll. 66%. So Trump's approval among under 30s right now is where Obama's was in early 2009. That is a vibe shift indeed. Samoa Bob says, wonder if any of that approval rating correlates with under 30 people not watching the news. Yeah, I think absolutely. I have a story that I had to pull out today, and I put it in the stack for tomorrow, talking about the media, the state of the media, X being the news now. I saw someone had a tweet just a little bit ago. They said it used to be legacy. It used to be tweets about legacy news stories, and now it's legacy news stories about tweets. There's a lot to get into on this subject. I'm going to save that for tomorrow. There's more things I want to say on it, and I need to get through today's show. But we are indeed the media, and we need to act like it. So everyone could see this coming, but it's official now. Jack Smith has filed to drop all 4 felony charges against President Trump. And just for context, the 4 felony charges were conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. So here's the government's motion to dismiss. As a result of the election held on November 5, 2024, the defendant, Donald J. Trump, will be inaugurated as president on January 20, 2025. It has long been the position of the Department of Justice that the United States Constitution forbids the federal indictment and subsequent criminal prosecution of a sitting president. But the department and the country have never faced the circumstance here where a federal indictment against a private citizen has been returned by a grand jury and a criminal prosecution is already underway when the defendant is elected president. So like they're pretending that for the last 4 years he was just a private citizen, just an ordinary private citizen. So we're going to use the standard that would be used against a private citizen against him for actions he undertook when he was not a private citizen. And now they're dropping it because they're saying, oh, well, we're not going to be able to continue with this because he's not going to be a private citizen anymore. Man, it's a good thing that our Department of Justice is so disciplined. They just stay with it. They color within the lines, you know? Look at how great and honorable and noble we are. Dropping this now since we know. No, what just happened is that he just got the biggest jury verdict of all time. And they need to get the hell out of Dodge. They know exactly what's coming for them, and they're cutting a deal as quickly as they can while trying to save some face. Confronted with this unprecedented situation, the special counsel's office consulted with the department's Office of Legal Counsel, whose interpretation of constitutional questions such as those raised here is binding on department prosecutors. After careful consideration, the department has determined that OLC's prior opinions concerning the Constitution's prohibition on federal indictment and prosecution of a sitting president apply to this situation, and that as a result, this prosecution must be dismissed before the defendant is inaugurated. That prohibition is categorical and does not turn on the gravity of the crimes charged, the strength of the government's proof, or the merits of the prosecution, which the government stands fully behind. So they're saying we still think he's guilty, but we are very honorably choosing to lay it down because it would be against our rules to prosecute a sitting president. Based on the department's interpretation of the Constitution, the government moves for dismissal without prejudice of the superseding indictment under Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 48A. The government has conferred with defense counsel who does not object to this motion. Now note here, they move for dismissal without prejudice, which means they want to keep the door open to be able to come back to it again in the future. Now, I suppose, perhaps, that this is they conferred with defense counsel who didn't object to this motion, and perhaps that's the agreement to get it done and over with right now and get a big political win is that they horse trade and they're going to say, okay, you can leave it open to bring it back again at some point later, and then you just have to make sure that some point later doesn't show up. So there's a story that's trying to percolate around the legacy press, which is kind of funny. Like they want to create all of these stories, but nobody really cares. And as soon as the story comes up and they try to press their narrative, immediately you get everyone just exploding the narrative all over the place with high-profile people like Elon Musk ensuring that everyone is aware of this process happening. So there's this story going around right now that the Trump transition team is refusing to sign these particular agreements, the standard trio of ethics and transparency agreements. And they're refusing to sign them. And so basically they're not getting access to any of the data or information that they need to begin getting to work. So this is from Mark Mitchell at Rasmussen Reports. He says, I wonder what the Trump team found buried in the agreements. And quoting from, I'm not sure where he's quoting from here, but one of the news articles. Advisors to RFK Jr. reached out to the Health and Human Services Department multiple times after Donald Trump tapped him to lead the massive agency, hoping to jumpstart coordination before his takeover in late January. They were rebuffed. Kennedy's inability to communicate with the agency he may soon manage, confirmed by an administration official with knowledge of the episodes granted an anonymity to describe internal deliberations, is just one consequence of the president-elect's continued foot-dragging on signing the standard trio of ethics and transparency agreements with the federal government, something his team pledged to do shortly after the election. The Trump transition's unprecedented delay in signing the agreements has so far prevented the incoming administration from having any formal contact with federal agencies, including sending in groups of policy advisors known as landing teams. It also means they can't access cybersecurity support or secure email servers for transition-related work or request FBI background checks for their nominees. My guess is that there is a massive paper shredding operation happening right now, and they intentionally put something into these ethics and transparency agreements that the Trump team would obviously not sign, so that the Trump team would obviously have to hammer out this issue legally or however, and buy them extra time to shred as much as they can. Both the Trump transition and the White House confirmed to Politico that negotiations on the agreements are still underway, but until the standoff is resolved, Trump's cabinet nominees will gain no more insight than the general public into the workings of the departments they're supposed to run. And this is from an article. There is a Trump team barred from agencies amid legal standoff on Politico. So if you go listen later on, if you go over to kingpill.substack.com, I'll have all the links that I covered today. They'll all be posted there. And it's free to subscribe, free to access. And then you can go read this article if you want more. So take a look at this. Elon tweeted this out. Well, someone tweeted it out and Elon highlighted it. It says, meanwhile, some idiots are still building manned fighter jets like the F-35. Look at this drone swarm. Remember that movie Wanted with James McAvoy, where they would bend bullets? They would shoot the bullets and they would wrap them around corners. That's what these are. Yeah, here's some decorative examples of it. Every time you've seen these coming out of Asia for a while now, and every time you see it, it's this is a demonstration of military technology. Yeah, these are steerable bullets. If you've been following the Silicon Valley, I don't know, technocratic circles that have been in this stuff for a while. They have been raising the alarm on this for years. I think the first time I heard people talking seriously about drone warfare and the direction that things were going was like 2018, maybe 2019. And we're like fully here now. What's been happening in the Ukraine has been wild. Yeah, Kate says looks beautiful till it has rockets pointed at you. Right. This completely changes the entire nature of warfare. And one of the good things about it is that the natural effect of this is that it's going to be removing human beings further and further from the actual crisis points. Because now you're going to get a lot of this is all going to be remotely done, which in a sense is actually a good thing. Because now it's like, it's like instead of us shooting our, like instead of me shooting you, I'm going to shoot your weapon and you're going to shoot my weapon. To this point, for the most part, that hasn't really been feasible because it's like my weapon is a battleship or a warship. And so you shooting my ship is also you shooting me. But in a sense, this is one way in which there's this selection pressure for evolving us away from bloody warfare and into bloodless warfare. This is one of my key theses about the state of the world right now, which is that we're not waiting for World War III to start. We're looking to see whether or not World War III is going to escalate to like nuclear war. But we're already at war. We've been at war. But part of the introduction of the internet, and in particular social media, is that it has enabled us to outsource some of our warfighting capacity. It's a new generation of warfare, but it's still warfare. It's InfoWars. I mean, very aptly named. So this is both a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is that we can fight wars without people dying. The bad thing is that sometimes you need people to die so that you can stop fighting wars. Otherwise, the wars just keep going. The only way the war comes to an end is when people... Sometimes the only way the war can come to an end is if people start dying. That's what drives people to want to end the war. But that doesn't change the fact that we're still fighting a war. The other thing is that with these sorts of considerations are just completely donating to globalism. There's a story here. Someone responded to him talking about the F35. And Elon just said it's a shit design. And Mark Andreessen screenshotted this and said, declassified Pentagon F-35 study details reliability and security woes for America's costliest weapon. Lack of reliable and ready jets marred years of combat testing. Issues include gun installations, repair times, and cybersecurity. A declassified Pentagon comprehensive test report of Lockheed Martin Corp's F-35 warplane, America's most expensive weapon system, reveals that 6 years of combat testing has been marred by reliability and maintenance delays, guns that don't shoot straight, and unresolved concerns about cyber defense capabilities. And Elon said the F-35 design was broken at the requirements level because it was required to be too many things to too many people. This made it an expensive and complex jack of all trades, master of none. Success was never in the set of possible outcomes. And manned fighter jets are obsolete in the age of drones anyway. We'll just get pilots killed. These guys are thinking about these issues on an entirely different level than the bureaucrats who have been managing them for the last little while. This is the definition of managerialism strangling greatness to death in the cradle. It's going to have to be too many things to too many people. This is the like paradigmatic example of how the managerial world just smothers people to death. Forces us all to be too many things to too many people. And we need a retrenchment back, much more locally focused concerns. Well, as you have different nations beginning to develop different types of technologies, warfare technologies, this is going to have a natural sovereigntist effect. Because as one begins to outstrip the other, and there's always going to be an incentive for American people to want to do American military innovation that gets them an advantage on China or Russia or whomever. That sense is always going to be there. And the more the higher the stakes become, the more people are going to be forced to place their chip on the for America explicitly or not for America option. So this is a way in which the whole globalist project was doomed from the start. I've got more about that here in just a little bit. But first of all, I got a couple other stories. So Scott Adams says, I didn't know Trump threatened to reveal the Mexican government's cartel connections unless they do what he wants on the border. And he threatened massive tariffs. And he threatened to send in special forces to get the cartels. So it looks like Mexico is planning to be extra helpful on the border. And the Sinaloa cartel is killing fentanyl makers just to stay off of Trump's bad side. Was that so hard? This is an article from the Gateway Pundit, Mexican president folding after just one phone call with Trump. The spark of resistance is officially gone, as at least one foreign leader already appears to be folding after just one phone call with President-elect Donald Trump. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, ding, is signaling that significant policy changes are on the table just days after a post-election day congratulatory call to the U.S. president-elect. Trump reportedly shattered the cordial call by bringing up the most pressing issue on U.S.-Mexico relations, the lengthy border between our two countries and the unacceptable state of it. This would make a really good meme here of have the I don't know if you do it with Wife Jack. I don't think it would work real well with Wife Jack. Maybe you could do an edit of Wife Jack, and then you just have the chat on the other side. So the Wife Jack's like, oh, congratulations on your election. And the other one's like, so about the fucking border. According to Fox News Digital, Sheinbaum is considering the adjustments in direct response to the incoming Trump administration. In a recent press conference, the Mexican president gave assurances that the nation's sovereignty would not be lost while maintaining a positive relationship with Trump. The policy changes could be expected across multiple sectors as America's relationship with Mexico is more complicated than border security issues alone. Mexico's economy, while historically not the most robust, stands to lose in a big way. Tariffs floated by Trump would target Mexican exports. The automotive industry alone, an important sector in the country, could be among the most bloodied. According to the U.S. International Trade Administration, vehicle production, including the manufacturing of parts and technology for cars, is one of Mexico's most significant industries. The automotive sector alone accounts for 3.6% of Mexico's gross domestic product. Trump's targeting of the industry would undoubtedly shake factory floors from Baja California to Yucatan. Marcelo Ebrard, Mexico's economy minister, hinted that the nation may respond with tariffs of its own against the U.S. Good luck with that. Another area where Sheinbaum's administration will undoubtedly have to change gears is the border. While Mexican forces are working security on the country's border with the United States, the effort is laughably ineffective. A way to stay in Trump's good graces could be to simply guard the border. The nature of the situation is clear to at least some of Mexico's politicians. Claudia Sheinbaum's administration will have to reinforce the security strategy on the southern border by deploying the National Guard and strengthening the presence of the National Migration Institute, Mexican Congressman Raul Torres told Fox News Digital. Trump's promised deportation effort, which he vows will be substantial, also stands to complicate matters for Sheinbaum. Now, with the coming Trump administration, everything is going to be much more complex because they will not only focus on immigration, but also on trade and security, Baker Institute scholar Rodrigo Montes de Oca told Fox. In rushing to meet the results of Trump's policies, it's expected that Mexico may increase immigration enforcement. Many migrants enter Mexico through that country's own southern border and submit to working with U.S. authorities. And it seems Sheinbaum is not the only Mexican politician that needs to worry. Now, remember, this is the woman who was elected after something like 37 or 47 of her competitors were unalived. Obviously, the ding is very obvious, and it's very clear who she is a patsy for. This is where Pete Quiñones and Tom Luongo have both talked about the significance of Marco Rubio being put at the Secretary of State. Number one, it gets you a mush Republican out of the Senate and can be replaced by, like, if Laura Trump takes over Marco Rubio's seat, like, this whole thing that happened with Matt Gaetz was because there's these mush Republicans. Marco Rubio has been one of those mush Republicans. If that is now Laura Trump, that is a guaranteed vote for Trump. Laura Trump is obviously going to be loyal to Trump. She's there as a proxy for him. So you've got Marco moved out of that position. Now he's in a position where he can be fired if he doesn't do what he's told. His job is to work for Trump now. The dude knows where his bread is buttered. And it's a strong signal. I credit Pete and Tom for pointing this out. It's a strong signal that the focus of the State Department is going to be no longer overseas. The focus is going to be to the south, and probably the north a little bit, but especially the south. It's like a renewal of the Monroe Doctrine. The Western Hemisphere is going to be under America's explicit control because Mexico right now, Venezuela, Cuba, all these South American countries are being infiltrated and weaponized against the United States by European interests. I say European, if you catch my drift. And China is implicated in this as well because they have common ends. I'll get into a little bit of this in just a minute, reading through one of my tweets. But so they've installed this woman here. Obviously, when it happened, I said this is them accepting that they're going to lose the election, and they're setting up their contingency plan. And right now, she has no alternative except to at least claim that she's going to play ball. She could be really defiant, you know. She could be like, no, we're not going to let this racist bigotry take over the world. We're going to entrench her. She can't do that. She doesn't have the sand in her pants. Her backers don't have the sand in their pants. Trump's going to be like, I'm putting 100% tariffs on all of our imports from you. They're going to get crushed. So this is what Marco Rubio is there for. Marco Rubio is there because the goal with American foreign policy in this administration is going to be getting Latin America in order, which makes the Bukele connection even more fascinating. There's so many different things all coming together now, and it's hard to keep them all straight. Considering the car, let's see. That is why Trump went so far as to say during the campaign that if Mexico did not cooperate on these issues, Montes de Oca continued, he would make public the U.S. government's intelligence information on politicians in Mexico who are related to drug cartels. So I'm going to slap massive tariffs on you. I'm going to air out your relationships to the cartels. The people are going to be coming for your heads. Oh, and I'm going to send the special forces down to deal with the cartels as well. And you just got publicly aired out as affiliated with the cartels. So do you want to play ball? Whose daddy has the bigger dick? Considering the cartel's influence in Mexico, Sheinbaum was elected after a record number of presidential candidate assassinations, per Reuters. It's safe to say this would likely expose a significant amount of lawmakers. For Sheinbaum and Mexico in general, the expectations over the next 4 years are clear. Behave and help Trump's America restore order, or else. Indeed. All right, couple of super chats here. 20 leaf bucks from Cordy's EZ7. Drone warfare localism seems like racist solar punk nonsense. Drone swarms can be undone by one bro and an SA-35. See my... I can't read that. My A-null question mark meme. Bloodless for the victor, maybe, but I would definitely keep fighting after Cortana fails. Well, I mean, yeah, what did, like... The evolution of drone warfare is that it drastically reduces the utility of any surface level weapon system. So whether that's ships, ground installations, flying machines of all various types, it's like the ultimate air. It's the ultimate air warfare. So it's not like necessarily targeted at the people. It's eliminating all the other ground or surface level weapon systems. And really the reality of warfare now is that space is the ultimate frontier to control because space is above air level. And then 5 more leaf bucks. Also, don't forget that Trudeau went low tax, closed borders too. Yes, that's right. He's undertaking, what was it, like the largest deportation effort in 100 years in Canada. Don't pay attention to like all the things people are saying. Look at the things they're actually doing. Because a lot of the opposition to Trump now is just rhetorical opposition. Because people have to save face. So you can't like spurg out every time there's someone has like rhetorical opposition to him or talks a big game or whatever. We've talked a little bit about Anna Kasparian, and there's some very interesting quotes from her in this interview. She's admitting she was guilty of TDS and that Trump broke her brain. Shout out to our good friend in the King Pill Discord. He's had his eye on her for a while, and he's he's going crazy. The more red pilled she gets, the more it's driving him crazy. And we're trying to peer pressure him into acting on it. Do me a favor and hit the like button, folks.
I think that politics has substituted religion to some extent. People have almost like this religious zealotry toward their political beliefs. And when that happens, it's really difficult to have a conversation with someone without it immediately devolving into allegations of bad faith, of lying, deception, all sorts of things. And so maybe that's part of it. But honestly, I didn't really notice this as an issue in America until Donald Trump was running for president and then after he got elected as president. And I am 1,000,000% guilty of honestly allowing him to kind of break my brain for a little bit because I saw him as such a significant threat. I think that politics has substituted religion to some extent. People have almost like this.
When I first started seeing her I don't know, her monologues like this, where she would talk about these sorts of things, indicating her red pilling, I assumed it was cynical, but like it doesn't matter. People can start it cynically, and LARPing is praxis. So the more you LARP it, the more you'll actually start to believe it. And a lot of these clips here, I think she's sincere. I think she's legitimately. I don't think she's going to wind up being, base trad wife or whatever. So I think she's definitely potentially on that trajectory, but I think she's like speed running the Tulsi Gabbard track.
And certain reversals of Trump-era immigration policies, which at the time I didn't give Trump credit for because he wasn't really applauded for it. And I didn't realize that, the Remain in Mexico policy was actually very successful. And Biden reversing it did lead to the crisis at the border that ended up being a political liability that backed him up into a corner. And suddenly he's hitting up Republicans in the Senate, asking them to write legislation that Republicans would like. So there are some flaws on the left for sure. And I think it's important to be real about those flaws and certain.
So this one here on the defeatist attitudes of Democrats. This is it's really funny how these people view Democrats, the things they say about them, because if you look at libs talking to libs about Democrats, they have the exact same perspective on the Democrats as Republicans talking to Republicans about the Republicans. And it's surreal. Talking about them being like weak and ineffectual and just constantly compromised. Like they see the Democrats as the outer party. They have seen the Democrats as the outer party for forever, which is completely surreal. I don't understand how they can do that. Shout out to Hermetic Hegemony. Great name. He says, "Evening, Mr. Morning Show. Listening while wife is in labor. Keep pushing, fellas." That sounds like she's the one who needs to keep pushing. The future belongs to us if we're willing to deal with some discomforts now. Let's get some oinks in the chat for Mrs. Hermetic Hegemony. Praying for you guys. Let us know when the good stuff happens. Taylor Brown says, "My new rule of thumb. If Pete, Matt, Jason, the boys aren't going apeshit about whatever news cycle dump occurs, then I have no reason to either. Maybe I'm a pleb for that, but it makes life a little easier." That's a responsibility I recognize.
Well, I started thinking about my own life and how that mindset was actually having a real world impact on my life in terms of like just this defeatist attitude, feeling as though I don't have all these opportunities that people used to have in this country. And look, some things have devolved in this country. Like that's certainly true. However, there is a reason why so many people from all around the world are trying to come in to the United States. This is a land of opportunity, even still. And I want to find ways to empower people to get after it, to go for their dreams, to not have a defeatist attitude or mentality. I don't want to infantilize people. I think people, regardless of their race, regardless of where they come from, have the capacity to do amazing things. And what I am just disgusted by right now with one faction on the left, it's not everyone on the left, but it is a faction. They are very successful themselves. They've gone to wonderful universities. They've gotten a great education. They have lucrative careers. But their lucrative career really hinges on spreading this message that there are no opportunities left in America. Okay, everything is, all of our systems are set up in a way to discriminate against certain groups of people. They're never going to be able to make it unless we burn the system down. And what that does is it puts ideas, it plants a seed in people's heads, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I don't want to feed into that. I want to find ways to empower people while also understanding, hey, there are some systemic flaws that maybe we can reform and make better.
This is the neo-trads, man. I got to give it to Jason. He absolutely called it. Another little chudling for the herd. Yeah, little chudlings. It's great. Shout out to Hermetic Hegemony and Mrs. Hermetic Hegemony. I see you, Jason. I see you dropping those goats in there. You're corrupting our oinks with your goats. This one here is one of the most interesting of all of these. So this is her talking about what began changing her mind and breaking out of the propaganda brain warp.
And so I'm like trying to get his bicycle like up the stairs, and all of a sudden this man stops me. His name's Jeff, and he's like, "Hey, let me help you out with that." And he starts helping me out. He stopped everything he was doing to help me out. And then Jeff and I became very close. You know, one of my neighbors who I really like, he was my favorite person in the entire building. And years go by. One day we're in an HOA meeting, homeowners association, and one of the people living in the building said something about Trump that was negative. I don't remember what it is. And Jeff whispers in my ear, "Oh, she's going to start trashing Trump. I'm out of here." And it hit me that he's a Trump supporter. We had never talked about politics before. And I'm like, so I got to know Jeff before I knew what his politics were. Incredibly kind guy. He helps everyone in this building with anything they might need. And so that woke me up to, wait a minute, not all Trump supporters are like dangerous, evil individuals. And yes, it was stupid that I thought that to begin with. Like, I'm embarrassed admitting that, but it's just how I believed. And that kind of was one of the moments where like a light bulb went off and something was telling me, you need to scratch beneath the surface a little more because you don't have a realistic view of what's going on here.
That is a powerful story. You know what Jeff has? Jeff has capital. Jeff has spent his time developing that capital, doing all the little things. And it turns out that he made a pretty big difference on someone with a pretty big audience. She's obviously she is the archetype of the neo-trads. $5, Eagle Bucks, cold hard American cash from Samoa Bob. Thank you, sir. He says, don't need to tell this audience, but this story goes to show that love thy neighbor can be incredibly red-pilling, especially with women. Yes. Yes. If you don't know what to do, just go help your neighbors, man. That's all you got to do. Just go help your neighbors. That's how you build up capital. That's how it begins. So here's Matt Gaetz talking to Charlie Kirk on why he ultimately withdrew.
I just want to address some of the speculation. So, some people say it was, the House Ethics Report. Some people.
By the way, shout out to Chuck Dirk here. Rumor has it that he might be running for governor of Arizona. That would be something.
Say that there were 5 immovable senators. There was so much media nonsense around it and lies about you and your character. Matt, what happened here?
There is a play that is run in Washington when they're trying to smear somebody. And, they go and dredge up false years old allegations of the most salacious and clickbait-y flavor possible. And in this case, those allegations were coming from sources that Merrick Garland's DOJ had already deemed not credible. Like, if the things that the House Ethics Report were true, I would be under indictment and probably in a prison cell. But of course they're false, because when you test them against other records, when you test them against other testimony, it all falls apart very quickly. But I was dealing with a politically motivated body. They didn't like me because of what I did to Kevin McCarthy. All of them were handpicked by Kevin McCarthy, and they had an axe to grind. So that was going to serve as at least enough of a basis to delay my confirmation as Attorney General. And I could have answered all those questions. I could have engaged in a months-long fact battle, but we don't have months to go through that. We got to have an AG ready to go day one to implement the immigration agenda and work on the other key policy deregulatory objectives of the president.
So if you want a really good breakdown of the details around this whole blackmail op against him, now I can't. Well, you should just go listen to both anyways. There's two shows that you need to watch. One of them is the most recent Pony Express Radio on the Old Glory Club from Thursday. And then the other one is the Thought Crime Syndicate episode with Charles Spadil and DE and Stormy Waters joined the two of them and Pete Quinones for this month's episode. Go listen to those. They talked about these details in both of them, and I wholeheartedly agreed with everything they had to say. Another one, go to Astroflight Substack, Astroflight, and listen to the most recent. I'll put a link in the description. Let me just open that real quick, because there was an episode they just did. They're doing this regular series now with Pete Quinones, Thomas 777, Stormy Waters, and in this one they were joined by Jay Burden. The most important thing you can possibly listen to. Don't listen to anything else until you've gone and listened to this one here. Astroflight Simulation is the Substack, and the episode is Trump's Cabinet Neocons, and Matt Gaetz gets blackmailed. One of the single best things I've ever listened to. Okay, Pete just shared it to his Spotify as well, so you can listen to it on Pete's stream. This is so important to listen to. They cover so much ground, and it's one of the best things I've ever listened to. You guys absolutely have to go listen to it. So I'll put the link to that in the master thread on the King Pill Substack. So speaking of Gaetz, Cat Turd, one of the worst people on the internet. Cat Turd says, can't wait for President Trump to appoint Matt Gaetz as special counsel to go after the deep state traitors. Checkmate. And Matt Gaetz himself said the Biden administration has filed hundreds of pages of briefs in federal court claiming that special counsels do not require Senate confirmation, in case anyone was wondering. Well, they're going to tease us for sure. Don't know if this is actual confirmation, but whether it's going to be him as a special counsel or someone else, isn't it interesting that now all of these hundreds of pages of briefs have been filed claiming that they don't require Senate confirmation? Oopsies! Might we get our own special counsel? Great that these stories are both happening right on the story of Jack Smith having to shut down his operation is happening at the exact same time that there's speculation that Matt Gaetz is going to have his own position. All right. A couple more things about MicroStrategy and Bitcoin, the connection between them, and then some thoughts that were sparks for me thinking about this over the weekend, and we'll wrap it up with that. So MicroStrategy isn't just positioning for Bitcoin's future, it's actively building it. When you understand this stuff isn't about a premium to NAV or net asset value, but about first mover and market infrastructure, the thesis becomes clear. And this, to me, I basically don't have a position in Bitcoin. I haven't had the available capital to put into it. It's not something, I'm not shilling Bitcoin. I'm less interested in Bitcoin as an investment and more interested in it as the role that it's going to play in completely changing the economic field of play and the downstream effects that that's going to have geopolitically. And it's starting to become really clear which direction this is going to go. I've been absolutely deep diving everything Tom Luongo has been on for the last week, and he's been screaming about not MicroStrategy and Bitcoin per se, but this broader picture that I think this plays a role in, and then a couple of tweets of mine that I'm going to read. So current as of November 22, 2024. BTC's price is 99,265. MicroStrategy is at 438.30. Market cap from MicroStrategy is 87.91 billion. Their holdings are 331,200 BTC, which is just under 33 billion. So their market cap is almost 3x their actual holdings of Bitcoin. He says, first, let's understand what MicroStrategy really is. It's not just a Bitcoin holder. It's not expensive Bitcoin exposure. It's not too volatile. It's Bitcoin's first and only investment bank. Let me explain why. MicroStrategy has engineered something unique. They raise capital at near zero cost. They convert it to Bitcoin strategically. They never sell their position. They create market infrastructure, and they build institutional access. So here he's talking about the convert note status, and this is more, I haven't completely wrapped my mind around what the implications are of all this because I'm not a quant bro. But for those of you who are, you could probably make more sense of this part than I can. But where I wanted to go to next is here. So here's the supply squeeze approximately. Total shares, 202.6 million. Institutional holdings are 65% of that. Retail holdings is 20% of that. Actual available is about 30.4 million. The insurance company Angle, most miss this completely. Insurance companies can't buy Bitcoin directly, but they can buy MicroStrategy converts as admitted assets. German giant Allianz just bought 24.75% of 2031 notes, which opens the door to a $7 trillion industry. If you haven't listened to the second half of Friday's episode where I talked to Peruvian Bull about this, you may not understand the implications of all of it, but this is something I was speculating about at the time, is the insurance industry beginning to get involved in this? Because we're talking about a massive flood of capital that now has a single pinprick. This is the analogy that Peruvian Bull used. They have a single pinprick that they can go through, and MicroStrategy has positioned themselves to be the first mover that benefits from the flow through that little pinprick. So if they allocate just 0.5%, that's 35 billion. 1% is 70 billion. 2% is 140 billion. Compare that to their current market cap, 87.91 billion. And then there's the government catalyst. U.S. Strategic Reserve, this is rumored. It's not for sure, but this is like one possible outcome. This is a median kind of possible outcome. Starts January of 2025, 200,000 BTC per year, a 5-year program, and 1 million BTC is the total goal. So 1 million BTC would be the total goal for the U.S.'s holdings compared to 21 million available period ever. Why this matters? It forces allied nation participation. It creates sovereign competition. MicroStrategy already holds over 1.5% of all Bitcoin. So the supply squeeze accelerates. So you're getting less and less Bitcoin available and more demand for Bitcoin. Why most miss this? They see just a Bitcoin holder when the reality is it's building an entire financial system. They say premium is too high. The reality is market structure value. They fear too volatile. The reality is volatility is the product because it's upward volatility. Think of it this way. Saying MicroStrategy is just a Bitcoin holder is like saying Visa just moves money, or Amazon was just a bookstore, or BlackRock just holds stocks. The reality check: no leverage on Bitcoin holdings, no forced selling, no debt against Bitcoin, professional management, and clear regulatory framework. The historical parallels: BlackRock started as a risk tool, built market access, created standards, and became infrastructure. MicroStrategy is following a similar path. CME evolution comparison. CME, standardized futures, created price discovery, built market structure. MicroStrategy is doing the same for Bitcoin. Key catalysts to watch: convert trigger progression, insurance company adoption, index inclusion potential, sovereign buying program, and market structure development. Market maker dynamics: must hedge convert exposure, limited shares available, natural buying pressure, accelerating price discovery, and institutional competition for float. So remember, MicroStrategy isn't just participating in Bitcoin's rise, it's building the infrastructure that enables institutional adoption. They have a first mover advantage, a market structure moat, and regulatory framework leader. Risk management: Clean balance sheet, professional execution, multiple capital sources, strategic flexibility, and institutional grade structure. MicroStrategy has created the perfect vehicle for Bitcoin's institutional adoption: the market structure, the regulatory framework, capital formation, professional execution, and first mover advantage. So mostly MicroStrategy as a Bitcoin proxy, but that's like calling Amazon a website in 1999. Every major asset class needed someone to build the pipes first. We're watching the birth of a new financial market structure. MicroStrategy is doing for Bitcoin what BlackRock did for ETFs, but with a permanent moat of 331,200 Bitcoin, one that should only increase in size before Thanksgiving or Black Friday. So related to this, here's this thought. Have you considered the fact that Bitcoin-backed loans, which are coming to every single bank and financial institution you know, will cause massive amounts of Bitcoin to be removed from circulation, making an already insanely scarce asset that much more scarce? Talk about number go up. A 15-year loan to buy a large ranch collateralized by 50 BTC will remove those 50 from the market for the duration of the loan. And let's not even talk about refinancing to extend the life of the loan. Bitcoin is going to teach the world what true scarcity is. It's also going to teach the world the enormous difference between owning real self-custody BTC versus the paper forms like ETFs. In a few years, you'll regret not getting enough of the real BTC locked away in cold storage, and you'll regret it for the rest of your life as you watch those who did live a far better life. I'm telling you, people, you better stack harder. Obviously, this is not investment advice. Like I said, I have no personal stake in this. I know that I'm going to be one of the people that regrets it. I had a bunch that I sold. Was very happy with my making 3x on my money, and I needed the money. Now I'm wishing I hadn't put myself in the position where I needed that money, because I would be way better off right now. It is what it is. To me, what I'm observing here is not the investment potential. I'm looking at the downstream effects that investment potential is going to have on the global economy and the political realities implicated therein. So here's a couple of tweets. I'm trying to burn through this kind of quickly here because I gotta wrap up shortly. I wrote this tweet. Most companies seek to optimize their stock in terms of dollars per share. MicroStrategy is optimizing for Bitcoin per share. This will attract everyone who trusts Bitcoin more than the dollar. The more Bitcoin rips, the bigger that demographic gets. So anyone who's a bear on the dollar, who wants to hedge against the dollar, and they see Bitcoin as a hedge for that, the idea of a company that is now, instead of valuing their stock in dollars per share, they're valuing it in Bitcoin per share, that's very attractive to that psychology. But what happens if it were to start crashing? How skittish their investors get will determine their latitude for navigating a bear turn. Bitcoin bulls are some of the most rabid and risk-tolerant investors imaginable. They're legitimate psychopaths. Like, everyone's aware of this. Bitcoin fixes this. That phenomenon, though, that the Bitcoin fixes this mentality means that the people who are overwhelmingly likely to be invested in MicroStrategy, their actual shareholders, are much more likely to be more risk tolerant because they've bought into the long-term vision. This means MicroStrategy's core investor demographic is uniquely inclined to be committed to their strategy and operating from a low time preference perspective, which changes MicroStrategy's calculus vis-a-vis an ordinary company. The very nature of their strategy selects for an investor pool most likely to stick it out to success. Saylor's big gambit is as much a bet on psychology as it is on math. And then, let's see here. I'm going to save a couple of these tweets to read on tomorrow's show because they're going to require a bit longer of a conversation. Tomorrow's show is basically set already. And I'm going to wrap with this one here. This is a bunch of thoughts that I kind of put together as I was listening to what Tom Luongo's been talking about lately, as he's kind of reading the tea leaves. And I think he's just absolutely correct on everything. Like, he has absolutely nailed it on everything. I'm proud to have contributed the PayPal Mafia thesis and the initial work on that got into Pete's hands, he got that into Tom's hands, and Tom paired that with all the other stuff that he's been doing, talking about Jerome Powell and the battle between the Fed and the City of London. And putting all these things together just lays the entire picture completely bare. If I were you, if you want to know what's going on, go to YouTube, search for Tom Luongo, and set your search filter to return based on upload date and look at the last 2 weeks. And then just listen to every single result there, every single interview. Tom's been doing interview after interview after interview. And he's laying out really clearly what's going on right now. So these are some thoughts that I had based on listening to that. Right now, we have a United States of America, and we have a United States trademarked empire. The former has been the chief client of the latter. So the actual United States of America has been a client of the so-called United States empire. The number one aim of globalism was to permanently ensure European interests' control over American capital markets through a limitless stream of unsecured USD tokens that could be endlessly leveraged to purchase control of global markets and once and for all collapse the distinction between public and private capital. This is the Trotskyite vision. Ensure permanently that European interests maintain control over American capital markets through a limitless stream of unsecured USD tokens. So these little digital tokens that are arbitrarily printed by offshore banks, they're called USDs, and they're used and leveraged and re-leveraged and re-leveraged and re-leveraged to build up the so-called third world, to pretend it seems more valuable than it actually is, so that these Trotskyite oligarchic interests can accomplish two things at once: buying up the global economy and hamstringing the United States. Because the United States, becoming sovereign over its own currency and sovereign over its own economy and sovereign over its own defense and sovereign over its own borders, is an existential threat to them and their global domination visions. Americans have been financially strip-mined to fund the last gasps of the corpse of the British Empire, trying to fulfill its mandate beyond its own grave. From a populist perspective, Trump is a middle finger from the American people to these globalists. From an elite perspective, Trump is a vehicle being commandeered by American institutions who seek independence from these globalists. Beginning with this premise, it's not hard to figure out which institutions and personalities are most incentivized to coalesce around Trump. On one hand, anyone with a vested interest in preserving American control over American capital. This would be American private equity, American commodity producers. So if you think about who's going to have a vested interest in preserving American control over American capital, do you think an American commercial bank wants to cede over power and control and wealth to a global central bank? No, they want this two-tiered monetary system because it allows them to have a domain that they retain control over. American commercial banks, the American central bank, do you think the Fed wants to be just a proxy for like the IMF or the ECB or the BOE or the COE? No, of course the Fed does not want to be a proxy for them. That makes the Fed weaker. American defense contractors, American venture capitalists, American industrialists, American workers, nationalists, patriots. Anybody who falls into any of these categories is going to have a natural incentive to preserve American control over American capital. On the other hand, anyone with a vested interest in preserving globalist control over American capital. And again, you can read globalist as Western European oligarch. You can read it as Trotskyite. You can read it as City of London. You can read it as Israel. All of these influences are all interconnected. European oligarchs and their clients in European governments, which are the hostile foreign power, and their clients in American governments and their clients in American industry, who are traitors. There are Americans who are involved in this power structure, who are incentivized to try to maintain it because they are traitors. They've aligned their interests with a hostile foreign power because they are for sale. This is the definition of traitor. You can also call these the Atlanticists. All of the combatants in this war are motivated largely or even exclusively by a desire for personal enrichment. This is why the American side of the equation will win. Their interests unite them on a common focus: American sovereignty. They don't need to believe in American sovereignty as a matter of ideological principle. They believe in American sovereignty because American sovereignty makes them richer. The hostile foreign powers are themselves factionalized. If they did win, they'd be stabbing each other in the back before they'd even begun celebrating. Think about like the Brits versus the French and the Germans. They're all going to be at each other's throats immediately. The traitors are in it because they follow power. By definition, they have no character. They're cowards. They will be scattered, prosecuted, or recruited/blackmailed. And here's the thing. Many of them will be recruited or blackmailed because this is how power politics works. Someone like Marco Rubio. This is how you can read someone like that. Now, this is a dynamic state. If someone is recruited/blackmailed, then of course they can always double cross you. This is the nature of power political warfare. So simply saying, "Oh, but he could double cross. Maybe he'll start disobeying Trump." Yes, obviously. Are you a child? Did you just start paying attention to geopolitics yesterday? Of course that's a factor. This is an ongoing reality that will continue ongoing, that will unfold in perpetuity. Competing on the power political level as a powerful executive involves dealing with these sorts of potential externalities. And just crying about that existing potentially just shows that you're emotionally incontinent and a child. You don't understand how these things work. The snowball is already rolling. In broad strokes, the outcome has already been decided. See, the vibe shift, Elon, Trump's electoral mandate, Europe's bond crisis, Bitcoin, LIBOR to SOFR. You can't undo these things. They've already been done, which means their outcomes are already being decided. History isn't written until it is, so the details will still have to bear themselves out. But the only real question that remains is whether or not the American victory is quick and emphatic or slow and pyrrhic. No one can compete with America's capital markets, natural resources, and geographic position, and especially not when they're all backed up by a charged-up American spirit. That's why they've dedicated decades to hamstringing us, desperately trying to ground their economic future in American assets. There's a beautiful cosmic justice in this. They will actually succeed in attaching their economic future to American growth, but they won't be in the driver's seat. The imperial relationship is inverting. It will be good for all of us when America moons, or Marses, as the case may be. They have no choice. They've intentionally put a ceiling on American productivity and hamstrung us, dragged us down and tried to maintain us at their level because they recognize if America gets its head, gets free from the reins, America's going to moon. It's got the perfect synchronization of resources and geographic position and national personality. It's got the perfect synthesis of all of these things that is going to produce massive growth and prosperity, which is going to make America uniquely powerful in its own right relative to all of the other powers. But what that means is the British Empire has to die. It has to be fully buried, and we have to fully move on. Which means the people who have the vested interest in trying to prolong it are going to have to be disempowered. But the effect of them being disempowered is that all of those nations can now attach themselves to America. As America takes off, they're going to surf in its wake. Addendum, this premise also makes clear from a 50,000-foot view the relative priorities of Russia, China, and their proxies. China are obviously heavily indexed on the globalist side because that arrangement is what built their entire economy. It'd be a great setup for them if it could stick. Russia are obviously much more fond of America choosing to no longer be used by their age-old Western European adversaries to relentlessly hector them. Even if it means being the number 2 to America's number 1, that's eminently preferable. Like Trump coming in and saying, all right, all this Ukraine bullshit is done. Figure it out. Get a peace deal. All of this shit is done and over with. NATO's not going to be doing this constant expansion thing. Russia would obviously vastly prefer that. Israel is a proxy for these Western European oligarchs, an intersection of mutual interests established to satiate a bizarre ethnic blood feud on one hand, and to economically and politically badger and hem in Russia, while serving as a black hole to siphon American capital into funding both exploits on the other. Forcing the offshore markets to legitimately trail behind American monetary, energy, trade, and defense policy, rather than this backseat driving, leading from behind bullshit, will hurt at first. It will break the backs of the globalists, and the waves from their collapse will be deadly. But after we ride out the flood, we will be left with fertile ground for the seeds of national sovereignty to spring up in other countries. Because America is the mimetic model. They created a monster that will consume them and bring to pass their greatest fear. And America unleashed, steaming full speed ahead, carving a wake for the rest of the world to surf. America is realizing both that she's not an empire and that she will be. Shout out to CG Constantine. All right. That's all I got for you guys today. Do me a favor and hit the like button on the stream. We got 145 watching and only 62 likes. Come on, guys. Do me a favor. I haven't been calling it out. But you got to do your part. Like the stream. Like the stream. Give us some oinks for Pig Dirk. Oinks in the chat. Go follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. Subscribe to the channel. Join the Discord, kingpilled.com. That's the place you want to be. We're going to be doing the Schizo stream on Wednesday evening. We're talking about devolution theory, continuity of government stuff. Did you know that there was a Chinese spy who defected to the United States in early 2021 and intentionally did not go to the FBI or the CIA, but went to the Defense Intelligence Agency, and the FBI and CIA had no idea about him. Anthony Blinken had no idea about him. Did not know he was in the country. It's very interesting. Lots of other fascinating things we've been uncovering in this Schizo stream series. So if you want to join us for that, it's the best place on the internet to be. Kingpill.com. Go join the Kingpill Discord. The Pig Gang. Yes, we have the Pig Gang. And remember to get your Patriot drop. The link is in the description. You can also go to buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled and send me a couple of bucks if you can buy me a coffee, buy me a beer. If you like what I'm doing, you want me to keep doing it. Stay tuned for more info on this secret transmission of white pills coming in from over the ice wall. EWBSX.com. All right, that's all the calls to action I have for you guys today. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the ASTROLABE. Until then, I give you Hulk.
They're my hero. And they tried to kill the next president of the United States. Enough was enough.